Penguin Audio presents The Winter of Our Discontent, written by John Steinbeck, read by David Aaron Baker. Chapter 1. When the fair gold morning of April stirred Mary Hawley awake, she turned over to her husband and saw him, little fingers pulling a frog mouth at her. "You're silly," she said. "Ethan, you've got your comical genius." "Oh, say, Miss Mousie, will you marry me?" "Did you wake up silly?" "The years at the day, the days at the morn." "I guess you did. Do you remember it's Good Friday?" He said hollowly, "The dirty Romans are forming up for Calvary." "Don't be sacrilegious. Will Marullo let you close the store at 11? "Darling chicken flour, Marullo is a Catholic and a wop. He probably won't show up at all. I'll close at noon till the execution's over." "That's pilgrim talk. It's not nice." "Nonsense, ladybug. That's from my mother's side. That's pirate talk. It was an execution, you know." "They were not pirates. You said yourself whalers, and you said they had letters of what-you-call-it from the Continental Congress." "The ships they fired on thought they were pirates, and those Roman GIs thought it was an execution." "I've made you mad. I like you better silly." "I am silly. Everybody knows that." "You always mix me up. You've got every right to be proud. Pilgrim fathers and whaling captains right in one family." "Have they?" "What do you mean?" "Would my great ancestors be proud to know they produced a goddamn grocery clerk in a goddamn wop store in a town they used to own?" "You are not. You're more like the manager. Keep the books and bank the money and order the goods." "Sure. And I sweep out and carry garbage and kowtow to Marullo, and if I was a goddamn cat I'd be catching Marullo's mice." She put her arms around him. "Let's be silly," she said. "Please don't say swear words on Good Friday. I do love you." "Okay," he said after a moment. "That's what they all say. Don't think that lets you lie jaybird naked with a married man." "I was going to tell you about the children." "They in jail?" "Now you're silly again. Maybe it's better if they tell you." "Now, why don't you?" "Margie Young Hunt's going to read me again today." "Like a book? Who's Margie Young Hunt? What is she, that all our swains—" "You know, if I was jealous— I mean, they say when a man pretends he don't notice a pretty girl." "Oh, that one. Girl? She's had 2 husbands. The second one died." "I want my breakfast. Do you believe that stuff?" "Well, Margie saw about brother in the cards. Someone near and dear, she said." "Someone near and dear to me is going to get a kick in the pants if she doesn't haul freight." "I'm going. Eggs?" "I guess so. Why do they call it Good Friday? What's good about it?" "Oh, you," she said. "You always make jokes." The coffee was made, and the eggs in a bowl with toast beside them, when Ethan Allen Hawley slid into the dinette near the window. "I feel good," he said. "Why do they call it Good Friday?" "Spring," she said from the stove. "Spring Friday?" "Spring fever." "Is that the children up?" "Fat chance, lazy little bastards. Let's get 'em up and whip 'em." "You talk terrible when you're silly. Will you come home 12 to 3? "Nope." "Why not?" "Women. Sneak 'em in. Maybe that Margie." "Now, Ethan, don't you talk like that. Margie's a good friend. She'd give you the shirt off her back." "Yeah? Where'd you get the shirt?" "That's pilgrim talk again." "I bet you anything we're related. She's got pirate blood." "Oh, you're just silly again. Here's your list." She tucked it in his breast pocket. "Seems like a lot, but it's Easter weekend, don't forget, and 2 dozen eggs, don't forget. You're going to be late." "I know. Might miss a 2-bit sale for Marullo." "Why 2 dozen?" "For dying. Allen and Mary Ellen asked specifically. You better go." "Okay, Bugflower. But can't I just go up and beat the hell out of Allen and Mary Ellen?" "You spoil them rotten, Eth. You know you do." "Farewell, O ship of state," he said, and slammed the screen door after him, and went out into the green gold morning. He looked back at the fine old house, his father's house and his great-grandfather's, white-painted shiplap with a fanlight over the front door, and Adam decorations, and a widow's walk on the roof. It was deep set in the greening garden among lilacs 100 years old, thick as your waist, and swelling with buds. The elms of Elm Street joined their tops and yellowed out in new coming leaf. The sun had just cleared the bank building and flashed on the silvery gas tower, starting the kelp and salt smell from the old harbor. Only one person in early Elm Street, Mr. Baker's red setter, the banker's dog, Red Baker, who moved with slow dignity, pausing occasionally to sniff the passenger list on the elm trunks. "Good morning, sir. My name is Ethan Allen Hawley. I've met you in pissing." Red Baker stopped and acknowledged the greeting, with a slow sway of his plumed tail. Ethan said, "I was just looking at my house. They knew how to build in those days." Red cocked his head and reached with a hind foot to kick casually at his ribs. And why not? They had the money. Whale oil from the 7 seas, and spermaceti. Do you know what spermaceti is? Red gave a whining sigh. "I see you don't. A light, lovely rose-smelling oil from the head cavity of the sperm whale. Read Moby Dick, dog. That's my advice to you." The setter lifted his leg on the cast-iron hitching post at the gutter. Turning to walk away, Ethan said over his shoulder, "And make a book report. You might teach my son. He can't even spell spermaceti or anything." Elm Street runs at an angle into High Street, 2 blocks from the old Ethan Allen Hawley house. Halfway down the first block, a delinquent gang of English sparrows were fighting on the new-coming lawn of the Elgar house, not playing, but rolling and picking and eye-gouging with such ferocity and so noisily that they didn't see Ethan approach. He stopped to watch the battle. "Birds in their little nests agree," he said. "So why can't we? Now there's a bunch of horse crap for you. You kids can't get along even on a pretty morning, and you're the bastards St. Francis was nice to. Screw!" He ran at them, kicking, and the sparrows rose with a whispered roar of wings, complaining bitterly in door-squeak voices. "Let me tell you this," Ethan said after them. "At noon the sun will darken, and a blackness will fall on the earth, and you will be afraid." He came back to the sidewalk and proceeded on his way. The old Phillips house in the second block is a boarding house now. Joey Morphy, teller at the First National, came out of the front door. He picked his teeth and straightened his Tattersall waistcoat and said, "Hi," to Ethan. "I was just going to call on you, Mr. Hawley," he said. "Why do they call it Good Friday?" "It's from the Latin," said Joey. "Goodus, godilius, goodum," meaning lousy. Joey looked like a horse, and he smiled like a horse, raising a long upper lip to show big square teeth. Joseph Patrick Morphy, Joey Morphy, Joey Boy, the Morph, a real popular guy for one only a few years at New Baytown. A joker who got off his gags veily-eyed like a poker player, but he whinnied at other people's jokes, whether or not he had heard them. A wise guy, the Morph, had the inside dope on everything, and everybody, from Mafia to Mountbatten, but he gave it out with a rising inflection, almost like a question. That took the smart-aleck tone out of it, made his listener a party to it so that he could repeat it as his own. Joey was a fascinating monkey, a gambler, but no one ever saw him lay down a bet, a good bookkeeper and a wonderful bank teller. Mr. Baker, First National president, trusted Joey so completely that he let the teller do most of the work. The Morph knew everyone intimately and never used a first name. Ethan was Mr. Hawley. Margie Young Hunt was Mrs. Young Hunt to Joey, even though it was whispered that he was laying her. He had no family, no connections, lived alone in the 2 rooms and a private bath in the old Phillips house.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?